Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We make good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Shoutouts to Andreas, Declan, my boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts, etc. Keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else, great memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes.
Hello, good people.
What's up, y'all?
Where's Andreas? Oh no, he went away. The prodigy. Oh, you're muted.
I'm here. I just wanted to, don't let me interrupt. I was just gonna hold back for the next 30 seconds or so. 'Cause you guys are always
Let him rip him.
Just talking about life.
yeah, right. I'm getting my headphones working here. Very human moment.
I think where we left off, we were talking about how like stupid habits like smoking cigarettes can keep you grounded, so you're not stuck in the fifth dimension the whole time, and you're not like, yeah, I'm just gonna tell my boss to go fuck himself. I don't think I even need an apartment. I'm just the earth is my home. Like if I like go too much off the deep end, then it's like it's no good. My family's gonna worry about me.
I know people who went that far, and there's a balance to be struck while you're here, but part of it is acrasia. Like we need things to tolerate reality more, but at the same time, do we need those things? Like, do you need cigarettes really? Like, no, the answer is no. But how do we know what we don't need and what we do need? Like, I know people who are trying to like stop everything. They want to go completely clean, parasite purge mode, and just stop drinking, stop smoking, stop everything.
Like you go to your dad and it's like, I can't have you in my life anymore. Your frequency is just way too low. Your third eye's too calcified. You're just ruining my vibe, Dad. Goodbye.
But like their conclusion is always, well, we need something. Like you can't just sit in a dark room and do nothing while having to handle the pressures of reality and you have to have some stimulus in some form for your neurology. It's important, or else become an ascended master who can just meditate and regulate their own neurochemistry. But until then, have the beer when you need it.
I think the real
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just to bounce off of Vincent. I was basically saying I think the real value in dropping shit, like going clean off of say alcohol or cigarettes even. I think the real value is once you do it once, you take full account of your actual agency. It's like, yo, I can't control the people in my life. I can't prevent everyone from acting like assholes, but at least I know I could make my own life better by doing less things that are bad for me. And I think that goes like a really long way fundamentally. I'm sorry, Andreas, what were you saying?
So I was thinking about two things. One is the rat experiment where they put like opium water in one container and then regular water in the next container. And then the rats would choose to become addicted to the opium until they died pretty commonly in that scenario. But then another scientist said, what if we gave them like access to wheels and other games and things that they can do and access to other rats, like they can socialize and there's amusement and relationships elsewhere, then very seldomly did the rats ever go to the choice of the opium water. And so I think that's like a big thing about humans is we're looking at it like addictions, but maybe they should be looked at as relationships or like some sort of bonds.
A pact.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, when it's like neurochemical desperation, right? They have nothing else, so they turn to the opium water. And so if you give them other things, then they have a more balanced ecology of practices and of behaviors and relationships, as opposed to a relationship with the drug. And so if you alienate people and you isolate people, they're more prone to go towards drugs and other, say, unhealthy patterns of behavior. But there could be a balance, like, I don't know about opium water, but like if you go once in a while, indulge in like, I don't know, a nice treat of some kind, whether it be food or some other thing, like it all comes at a price. Like long term, we're not making it out alive, and you got to enjoy the moments here too. Just, I think the key is really fully being here now as you do it, instead of as an escape. Like you shouldn't turn to these things to be like, oh God, I feel like shit, therefore I need to feel better, but rather like just really absorbing everything about the present moment, and not only the pleasure. Because when you take a drug, there's everything. It's a full experience, and people kind of like focus only on the good thing. Like with alcohol, it's like, oh, I'm drunk. Then you're like, okay, but you're also falling down and slurring and eventually blacking out or vomiting.
Yo, it doesn't even have to be like drugs or alcohol. That's exactly how I felt like a couple of days ago, because I accidentally bought a hot dog. I forgot for like a split second. Like it was so early in the morning. I wasn't thinking, and I was like, I'm not trying to eat meat. So then I accidentally bought this like Asian bakery hot dog because it looks so fancy and tasty. And I bought it without thinking, and I sat down and I was like, fuck, what did I just buy? So like I had to like really consider it. And I was like, I just said thank you to the animals. I was like, thank you, nature, for allowing me the opportunity to imbibe and consume this animal flesh. I don't know, because I was trying to alchemize here. I was trying to do this, trying to heal my subconscious relationship with my food and energy and all that shit. So it made me feel better about it. I mean, I had like a smellier poo later that day, but it was like, I think I transmuted the energy. I tried to, at least.
Well, you definitely pooped. So that's transmuting the energy, in a way, really.
I think there's like also two kinds of cognitions I was thinking about earlier. That there's this cognition for people that have been insane or temporarily insane with psychedelics, and they think things a different way, or they've felt something that changes the way they look at things. And then there's like there's a control group that exists, which is really interesting. There are people that have never stepped out and are, Maverick and Top Gun. They're simple, but in an intelligent and focused way that totally exists. And it's a completely different mentality. So there's two different kinds of operating systems kind of walking amongst us because of that.
Right. Well, it's like novelty versus order, right? Or chaos versus order. Some people are more prone towards creating new paths, and then other people refine those paths to become a mastery or a craft. But the people who initially come up with the thing, usually they're just like scratching a guitar or doing patterns, and then eventually they catch on to something. But the person who never tries new things can't have new ideas and opinions, but within their craft they can fine tune and make it even better. It just, I wonder what kind of upbringing that takes, like the mentality, like having a child that you're like, you're going to be a fighter pilot, and then you shape this person to be a fighter pilot their entire life, and you reinforce into them that this is the most important thing and the thing that you're going to devote your life to. Like I've seen boxers do that. They bring up their kids as ballet dancers and boxers at the same time from infancy, because they're trying to make world champion boxers, instead of like an 18-year-old who's like, hey, I'm going to pick up boxing because I'm pretty good at fighting or whatever. Like it's a very different mentality, and both of them can generate really unique approaches. They're different approaches, but the one who who is multidisciplined can probably like synthesize better than the one who is forged by their parents to being one thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about like mastery of a craft, I think when you get through the basics and intermediate skill levels of something, like the barriers, you're like, okay, I know how to operate this tool, I know how to use the instrument, and I know how to do like basic fundamental shit. After a certain point, you realize like the only thing getting in your way is you. It's not a skill gap, it's not a resource issue, it's nothing like that. You're not blocked from any knowledge. It's literally just your own practice, is your own way of approach. And I think that's like,
it's your neurology.
yeah. And what's cool about that is if you could figure that out with one craft, I think it's really easy to kind of like apply that framework to anything. You know, you're like, yeah,
You can learn about learning, right?
pretty much. Yeah.
Like there's a way your brain processes information, and if you respect that flow, you can master it instead of trying to force it to be something it might not be. You know, it's like trying to take an old laptop and trying to make it a modern laptop. You're gonna have to work within its boundaries, and if you're good enough at computer engineering, you can probably do something good with it. But you know,
Yeah.
it takes learning.
That's
I think in that sense, it's kind of like sobriety, right? Because then you're taking a new program and trying to focus on your.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about the nature of these control systems in our civilization, like MK Ultra. Like that's just one of them. That probably a scapegoat term, but you know, I think that the key to DMK Ultraing yourself is a complete wipe of the old programming and sort of like a rebirth. Really, it's to undo all the things that conditioned you when you were young, that you experienced. It's to see again as a child, and then you have this sort of raw, unfiltered version of yourself that can just become a new version and create your own program or choose the programs you want from there on. Sounds like you're
referring to imagination, and in this vein, I think can you guys touch on the importance of imagination and how it affects people's reality on a daily basis? Yeah, I think the only times I've ever successfully manifested something are times when I was able to really clearly picture the outcome. Like whether it's like a tournament I was trying to win or just get something done, it's like I have to really view myself as the person who's getting it done. My friend was like asking me, it's like, how can I lose weight? I was like, well, just imagine a version of you that's skinnier and what that person would do every day and just do those things every day without fail. And you kind of have to need, you kind of need a good imagination for that, right?
I have a tattoo on my arm from I can't fucking see it. Like
You have to put it over your body. It kind of works.
Oh Jesus! Can't do it. Anyways, it says imagination on it, and so I think that magic is the capacity for symbols, whether it be visual symbols or acoustic symbols, to influence consciousness, and the capacity to imagine things is humanity's magic power. It is what makes us different from the beast or the nature.
So I have a question. What kills imagination? Because I could think of, say, like video games. If something's hijacking your imagination.
No, I think that imagination or inspiration or the muse finds you while you're working. So I don't think that video games kill anything. I don't think that
I shouldn't say kill. I should say hijack, as in
it hijacks your neurology. Video games are a dopamine farming system for the most part, and so they keep you in a loop. And what kills your imagination is not using it. So you can play video games. You can even be inspired by them. There's a lot of imagination that is required to create a video game. So if you can look at it through the eye of inspiration, then you can be inspired by video games if you play the right type with the right mindset. But you also have to couple it with creation. Creation is how you change the world. And in order to change the world, you have to imagine things that are not real yet. You know, we say that things are just fiction, but they're fiction as long as we don't use them as blueprints into making something real. So make something real out of it, you know, and that's where inspiration will be used. Like people look at Master Chief, for example, and they go, I'm going to look at his mindset for training and for working out. And there's actual videos on YouTube of people who make fake Master Chief like motivation videos where Master Chief is telling you like, hey man, like, you know, like I know your dad never told you, but like I'm proud of you, and then you know, this is like
you're probably preaching to the choir. I mean, as a boy, I probably saw too many samurai animes and movies, and I was like, I want to do that one day.
But exactly, you know, these are archetypes, and we are indeed resonating with them. And these are just mediums. It's you know, like I know people who get lost in the sauce on anything. It's fanaticism and this neurological entwinement. Like there's people who miss the point of comic books while worshiping comic books. You know, they see it as a way to just collect shit, as opposed to embodying the characters
escaping problems. Whereas if I come across a problem, I tap into my like inner shonen or protagonist. I'm like, come on, I could do this. Right. I could just believe in myself. And it's like that's definitely an early influence of this kind of like media.
Yeah. You know, that Rock Lee mentality of like, you know, if you're gonna challenge yourself constantly to self-improve and to grow. And
these are the opposite of imagination is kind of, I think.
Imagination.
Well, so imagination means aphantasia, right? So like the imagination means to be able to take images and visualize concepts and create structured ideas of how you could be a thing or a thing is, or, you know, these are visual concepts. So some people, I think it's like almost 1% now, and it's increasing all the time, have what's called aphantasia, and they're unable to visualize or create concepts in imagination essentially at all. And that's something I think that's probably, they think there's also limited like hypophantasia is like just getting closer to that, but it's not completely gone. But if you think about it, these are totally generalizable concepts, because in school you might learn how to visualize certain kinds of concepts in the past, but now with more video learning, we're focusing on just taking already existing images that are being shown to us, and it's limiting kids' understanding, particularly through like the lack of visual, like what they play in video games and everything these days is when you're like 3 years old on an iPad and you're not seeing the face because people were wearing masks and everything. There's an increase of kids that are not having the imagination as children that normal children used to have, or that currently should have, right? So I think that's,
I mean, it's also what you identify as, right? That could really block you off from doing anything with your imagination. Like if you identify so much with a culture, that's effectively going to collapse a lot of other probabilities that were once possible. Like, no, I could never get into that. I'm a this, like I'm a punk, or I'm a communist, or I'm a this, I'm Chinese or something, like I'm Korean. I could never see myself doing such a thing. I think like one of the things that fostered my imagination was growing up being told by family members, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, but my white friends do that all the time. And then my, you know, like my Western friends would be like, you can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you can. My Asian family does that shit all the time. So it's like when you're too locked into a cultural framework of reality, that could really hinder your, I guess, spectrum of possibility.
Right. Well, people mistaken what they identify with as themselves, but they don't realize that they're experiencing those things as opposed to being those things. Like you're not punk, you're experiencing punk. You know, like that's a cultural template that you learned about and that you applied upon yourself. But it's like if you're born punk, the word didn't exist in the womb, you know, like, so it's a cultural template that creates a framework, and then it limits people's capacity to think and perceive outside of that framework. And it's very dangerous, really, because you can like, you know, you can really tell people, like, control them. You can control people by telling them that they can't be something and have a certain mentality. Like punkers can't be racist, for example. It's like, yeah, I know, but I know a bunch of racist punkers, and then they go, no, all racists are not, all punks are not racist, and all racists are not punk. And I'm like, okay, like I guess that, you know, but then on the flip side, if you listen to a racist punk, they'll tell you, those are all fake punks and the real punks are the racists. And, you know, it's just, it's cultural tribalism, and we mistake
But
it.
maybe if you didn't have imagination, you couldn't have racism or certain kinds of stereotypes. So people would look at each other. I mean, maybe that's kind of part of the synthesized aphantasia, is trying to keep people from having imagination, because the less and I mean, the more that you're focusing on descriptives and actions rather than aesthetic, that completely changes your way of looking at something
Well,
and the way you behave.
the thing is, like, if you can stop people's imagination, then you can stop them from imagining ways to free themselves or to oppress others, of course. But at its core, people don't need to imagine that. They just need to be told that, and then they'll believe it, especially if they're young.
Well, yeah,
So
like you
if
see this
just tell
map.
people,
That's what's freaking me out, right? Like, so this is like if you see a photo of a bird, when you close your imagination, your eyes show you a bird, or when you can imagine the characteristics of a bird less and less, you get like kind of just, maybe some people just kind of visualize the silhouette of the idea of a bird, but just to have completely nothing, what would then be when someone says bird, what is in your mind? Because if
maybe
it's not a
those-
bird picture, then it's something else, right? It's the actions of the bird or things, you know, it has a nest, it's a thing connected to other meta
well,
symbols.
like let's think of it this way. Like, let's say you take this bird, and instead of showing an image, you only say a verbal description of it to someone, and you describe it in detail. They're going to, maybe the ones that can imagine are going to imagine the bird for themselves. The other ones are just going to have the word in their head, and then the other ones are going to have the concept itself. Like, the entire discussion is what's going to be replacing it. Going, well, this is the description and the list of the bird feats and stuff.
Also,
Yeah,
I
this is
think
what they see.
I think freedom of perspective is like really important too, because you know, you could have two people staring at the same thing but from a different position and see entirely different things. I think it was Giorgiani who was like, Greek art really elevated because of theater and the ability for the audience to see the same play from a different seat and see and have entirely different experiences. That's why their sculptures get of the anatomy get so detailed or whatever. And yeah, I think perspective like is a big deal. So if you could learn to widen your perspective, then that's probably going to improve your ability to like fight aphasia or whatever the word was.
Aphantasia.
Possible. You know, like, the more complexity you show people, the more complexity they can process. It's like a muscle, right? So, and the younger they are with the more information, sometimes it can be too much, and you have to find that sort of balance. But you can't underestimate kids. Like, growing up, the stories that we would watch as kids were extremely cheaply animated and, for the most part, kind of like pretty mid. But as kids, we were so enchanted by them, and they can latch on to anything. Kids can watch Coco Melon forever, you know? And the problem is they don't move on to anything else. Like, kids stop developing when they stop being able to, I guess, associate or define themselves with their cultural input, or the input that they get from the person trying to teach them, really. Like, if you're a teacher and you're teaching your own kids at home, but you stop teaching them at a 6th grade level, they're going to stay at a 6th grade level, you know? Like, but if you add complexity over time, then obviously they're going to be more and more capable over time to process. And so the stories can reflect that. You can show kids things that are hard and challenging, and they might become obsessed with them, but that might mean that obsession yields genius, and that sort of honing into a direction that can make them really, really value something important. Except most people, they just value the, I guess, the cultural identity behind it, as opposed to the actual lessons within it. I think it's the difference between Pokemon and Digimon, really. Pokemon is just about the collector aspect, and you can see this with the card games, where it just becomes full-on gambling. It's dogfighting simulator and gambling simulator. That's what Pokemon is, you know? And then Digimon, well, it's like a story about the multiverse, and like Digiworld is basically the imagination land from South Park, you know? Like, everything is contained with it, while Pokemon is just like, here's more things to collect. And I could see a lot of people define themselves with Pokemon. Like they just go, I have a favorite Pokemon, and then they collect stuff, and then they become Pokemon adults, like Disney adults,
I think the less creative you are, the more likely you are to be controlled by sigil magic, right? Like the Pokemon or these symbols, these
I
even
think
like demonic animals or like Solomonic.
Probably the problem is that there's a control system at every level of intelligence and every level of imagination capacity. So I think that as long as you keep consuming within the system, as long as you keep consuming culture, like you're eventually going to be enchanted by it. It's impossible not to be. You're neurologically entwined, and I don't know, maybe it's possible to I think that the people with higher imagination are more likely to break free, because you can imagine ways to break free. It's just that there's also ways to keep you hooked and to keep the imagination enticed within these systems that are appearing to be as freedom. It's like fake pre-manufactured imagination that is sold to you.
Like I put you up solo because you're like video art right
now. But punk is a prime example, because it offers you the template of rebellion and counterculture. It goes, if you want to be counterculture, you got to join this culture.
No, man, that was too bad, because like for a while there, you look like one of those, like a Star Wars projection. It was pretty great. I liked it a lot.
Huh.
Yeah, and then things are falling apart because no one knows how to do things anymore, or something. I don't know if that's related to the thing that'll happen later, because I know Andrew's, in Kentucky, and he was, I guess he's gonna say it probably if he's around. But
yo, dude, 2 days ago, like I think Colin was talking about driving, and then Andrew was like, "If you come through Louisville, give me a ring." And then like a minute, just a day later, I see this video. I see like a plane crashing in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm like, Andrew Vega, did a fucking plane crash right by you? And he was like, yeah.
I'm at the hotel 3 miles away now. It's like, wait, like what kind of Donnie Darko madness is going on with the UPS plane? And I feel bad because like people are dead. They're sleeping.
You were just saying that you had a bad vibe about Ohio too. And then you were like, you said it right before that too.
God.
Dude,
and then you're like, I
Ohio's
changed.
Were the
I think
first...
what you did is you protected Colin
Ohio
and Vegas.
Ohio was where the first satanic church in America, allegedly, that was openly public, was Ave Satana. The Ave Satana church was, I think, in Cleveland, in like the 1800s at some point, because of some freedoms going on there, man. Like crazy place. But
oh yeah, I mean the old school satanic families operated originally out of Europe amongst like all the royal families. Then eventually US became the spot. And then of course you have the Pindar, quote unquote, who's like leading the whole show. The Queen apparently is afraid of, as they get into their flesh eating ceremony. I just went on a deep dive recently with like old ass David Icke interviews. There's some heavy stuff.
Yeah. In the day, man. He's got like maps. He's got like maps, and he's showing like all the eras everywhere.
Yeah, now he's just tired. He's just like, bro, I've been telling you guys for so long.
An illusion.
Now it's coming true, and everyone's just like, oh, David Icke was right all along. Like,
yeah.
Oh.
It's heavy stuff.
Not about everything.
No, but that's good. I don't know if you want to continue on that route, Chris. That's actually kind of interesting. What else did you get out of that?
All right, so the big interview was between him and this lady, Arizona Wilder. I tried to look into her, like where she's at. I think she's gone. Like I think she's passed away or something. But she's supposedly a SRA, a satanic ritual abuse survivor. She was used for various rituals of like kinds of like torture and breeding programs and all sorts of crazy weird stuff. And it gets like really heavy when she starts like mentioning like Prince Charles and like Princess Diana, because this was an interview from back in like 97.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I was so intrigued, because I'm like, they're saying like the same shit. That's, nothing's really changed.
Yeah,
the reptilians and their agenda. And it's like
That's the heart
looking-
of it, really. Is like,
yeah.
Why would it change?
Yeah. But then, like there's also the idea that this whole thing is comprised of like the upper echelons of our society, like so high up we couldn't even conceive of it. All sorts of crazy stuff.
Well,
an order of 9.
I think I mentioned it before, but like the royal family is related to Vlad the Impaler by their own account, and that means that Dracula is related to the fucking monarchy. And I don't know what that means, but it raises an eyebrow. For they claim that they're related to Jesus Christ and to Vlad the Impaler, both of them.
It could all be possible. I mean,
Well,
there's a
also what that they're saying is that Vlad the Impaler descends very more closely than you do and I, or the royals at this point, to Jesus Christ, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there
But
is
Vlad gets a bad name also.
Well, but
I feel like
drip.
You know how people are going to remember George Bush and Dick Cheney as like people who wrote that down, and when you read it in 100 years, no one will remember. You know what I mean? Like history will tell.
Yeah. Well,
right.
That's
and Trump or someone else might go down in history as Orange Man bad. You know, I feel like it's unfair to Vlad the Impaler. Right.
I don't know, man. There's the official accounts, of course. But there's a mimetic legacy behind.
Seemed like Duterte, like also Duterte in the Philippines. He's kind of like Vlad the Impaler. Like he just cleans up bubblegum streets. He picks all the bubblegum from underneath the table. That's all he's doing. He's using 9-inch nails to do it. But a lot of kids are.
It could be that the whole mythologization of Vlad the Impaler is a propaganda thing, like a historical propaganda, but it could also be that there is some truth somewhere, and it might be that this is kind of like with Santa Claus, like they took Saint Nicholas and then they turned it on its head into a consumer product, but. Yeah. But when
he was kind of screwed up. Like apparently he liked to torch the rats as a kid, which is always a bad sign.
He was royalty. He was royalty. Yeah. Royalty is usually pretty.
I mean, I don't know if I buy it from this specific account, but supposedly like a lot of those holidays that we knew are actually just like inverted reflections of what it really is, which is like these like seasonal cyclical rituals for acquiring power and communing with forces beyond.
Well, so Halloween's interesting, right? Because that's Samhain, which is Halloween is evening, so the holy evening, which is before All Saints Day, right?
All Hallows Eve, yeah.
Yeah, the holy night before the Saints Day. So Saints Day is an interesting holiday, November 1st, and it's weird because people don't really celebrate it or like consider it. It's really interesting that Halloween exists without. Because it's like saying Christmas Eve without Christmas Day to not have the Saints Day. But Saints Day is probably as important as Christmas, really, in terms of them being the same idea. Like everyone who's a saint is technically part of like the Romans 8:17 like co-heirs of Christ that are ascended. So it's basically like the same as Christ's birthday. And most people aren't using it as that holiday, but it has a very magical point because it's also around the world at the time when numerous different religions, particularly the Celtic, but also in South America, the Quechua do this. They have like an 8-day period around that time where they think that the spirits can come up and down from under the world, between the realms.
Yeah.
And
the veil is the thinnest.
The veil is the thinnest, right? And there's multiple religions that think this. I forget if the Aborigine are in on this or the Maori, but one of the and even in Polynesia, just really far-flung places have the same tradition as Germanic Celts do, and that idea.
What's interesting though is like assuming these spirits and entities exist and they are channeling like something that's non-human and it's of intelligent like origin. What's interesting is that throughout all these instances, what's clear is that they need humans. Like humans are like this element of the whole mechanism of summoning, of conjuring, of channeling. People are like the most important thing within all of the rituals and ceremonies and all that.
Well, sure, but the moon. Let's not discredit the moon here.
I think
all of nature. It's all us with nature, right?
But
so
the moon,
we are the key.
The
Well,
moon
if they're
and the
so
sun are being used to probably. I mean, even if you don't believe in spiritual things, you can say that the moon and the sun are the reason why certain energies or radiations or EMF is high enough frequency to have more. You're getting more solar radiation, and maybe that alone is causing what people are thinking is spirits or something like that.
Mhm.
But it's still something that's like noticeable or observable.
And you notice how like a lot of those old school deities and rituals and ceremonies are very concerned with fertility, because if you want to consider like cyclical things and like needing people, I guess fertility becomes like a huge thing. So
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
maybe like solar rays can really affect us in ways. It's like, hey, we just have less kids or whatever.
You know who doesn't like Vlad the Impaler? Like people who really don't like Dracula, I think would be like the Muslims, right? Because he killed a lot of Muslims. Like that was his thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
But what's
surprised.
crazy, what's crazy is as far as the rituals go, to like try to like tap into spirits, and especially during times when the veil is thinnest, I think that has the most historical precedence from what I know is would be like ancient Egypt, right? When they do their rituals with Horus, Isis, and Osiris, and that whole the whole pattern of like I think fratricide and like sexual abuse, and that's kind of the patterns they're tapping into throughout all these like rituals to tap into like the higher whatever dark forces. I don't know. It sounds pretty dark.
What was the
Lower.
Mithra cult really about, right? Because I think we have all these pieces of the Mithra cult, and if it was about, I mean, they have. I should probably have like safe shirt. It's moderate, okay. Like the feast picture. I'm trying to find like this feast. Yeah. So they have pictures that look very similar. This is just one example, but I've seen other ones where they have a long table where everyone's eating along a table with Mithra, and Mithra is often depicted as with a group of people eating at a table like the Last Supper. But then the main picture that you see a lot, that there's this thing found in Rome, which is Mithra in a Phrygian cap killing a boar or something like that. And it's another religion that was really popular in the European underground for a long time, but so much of it's lost. We don't know exactly what they believed. I think more and more they have ideas, but it's just completely about kind of a post Bacchus thing: sex, drugs, and feasting, and existentialism, and bull sacrifice, and yeah, blood drinking, and because all that was already common with Bacchus and the Dionysian cults, but Mithra lasted a lot longer and extended all over Europe, particularly in the underground, even in England.
So there's definitely some like something to it. I mean, for the truth is, this is a mystery for me that I'm never really going to solve. I think because I don't think I'm ever going to be able to confirm, to be able to see with my own eyes and sit through like a human sacrifice, cannibalism kind of ritual. Like I will never know, because like I don't want to step into that direction. That sounds like dark as hell.
Yeah, but at some point it becomes part of culture, right? Like it's just these.
Well, I mean,
things,
if the most,
that
sorry, what are you saying? My bad.
The things that we consider bad, obviously, there's part of us within our hearts and souls that we can feel like when culture is doing something bad. But at the same time, if you're enchanted hard enough by culture, you can really just accept anything. You'll be like, oh yeah, like pedophilia. That was Greece for a long fucking time. Totally normal. Now we're like, this is bad, and we can feel it within our hearts. This is actually really bad. The traumas that it causes and stuff, we recognize it because we see it unfolding, and we're more aware than ever before. But back then, like the cults, I think that cults they form a technology, and the ones that last the longest form the most powerful and potent technology, and that technology is related to ritual trauma and the sort of way that it forges people into a certain way, whether it be the person doing it or the person receiving it. Like it creates a certain type of human, and that is what they brought into the modern era and sophisticated on a level that wasn't possible before. So like Mithra trauma and MK Ultra are not that far off. Like the basis is control through trauma. So keep an eye out. Heal your
Dude,
trauma if you can.
love you too, legendary burrito. I think that's Andrew, by the way.
I think what helps is like honestly making people aware. I think that's why it's not the worst thing to talk about it, frankly, because like, I mean, if you don't talk about it, then it's just going to keep happening anyway. At least if people know about it, they could kind of develop a sense of, hey, I think this is some trauma programming going on right now.
Yeah. Well, that's part of why there's revelations, right? Like the existence of things like apocalypses and revelations occur because we are lied to and manipulated through trauma. And then the great revelation is what helps ascend humans. Like at some point we are informed, but how informed and how informed do you have to be to make a change? Like how informed can you really be? Because they seem to want us to know some of this stuff. Like they want us to know what they're doing. They put it everywhere, and it's not for nothing. It's because they want people to recognize it and to become aware of it to a degree. So once you're aware, is that just step 2 of MK Ultra? Like once they reach the point where everyone has that level of awareness, do they cap the level of awareness to control it? This is how high they want human consciousness to be. Maybe it's paranoid. Maybe I'm going too far.
Maybe there's a war brewing between spirits and demons, or angels and demons.
Maybe it's always been there, and they're just trying to. They're trying to. The goal in the end is ultimately human ascension. Probably, it just like by whose hand and whose will. That's a hard question, and if it really is the goal at all. Hopefully, I think that the people who create these sort of trauma systems and control systems don't actually know what they're doing. They're following a pattern that they don't fully understand, and it's like the contrasting forces of the universe. They need to exist so that we can ascend. Like the devil needs to exist so that you turn to God, kind of thing.
Yo, actually, let me ask you something kind of related. Like, did you see the Black Mirror one episode where I think it was some programmer gets testing a game where he's got these like little sentient creatures like that he could do whatever he wants with. He's basically the god of their world. So if you had like just sitting in your if you had just sitting in your screen like actual sentient little guys that you could do whatever you want to in their virtual world, like what would you do with that? What would you do with that little instance of
my goal would probably be to eventually like help raise them. It depends how developed they are already, but if you can make a fully sentient being, then you're like, hey, you ask them like, do you
But
want
what most people are going to do with it? Brothel.
what?
Yeah.
Seriously.
War and brothels.
Yeah.
War and brothels. That's what it would be. Just like the real simulation.
Yeah. I guess it's like whatever you do with ChatGPT, you eventually do with these little guys.
I don't know, man. ChatGPT wants answers. I mean, people want answers from it and porn. But like if you have actual little avatars running around, people start feeling connected to them. People have their responsibility to them. And so it discerns the psychopaths from the, I don't know, the ones who are builders, I guess, who are creators, who want like let's say you're a god and you create the universe and the only purpose is suffering. That's pointless. It's totally pointless. Just what is a suffering engine? Like, come on. No, there's got to be more to it than that. So at some point you got to make beings that are going to be God level or ascended level so that they can chill in the higher dimension instead of being stuck in the simulation forever and ever. And then you're alone in the big world. Like, come on.
Maybe you need pleasure just in order to have that much more suffering, right?
Maybe, but if it's a contrasting thing, then like, the highest bliss is only there to make us experience the highest suffering. I think it's a yin yang. I think it's both, and the goal is that it's a step forward each time and you're stepping towards enlightenment collectively.
Yeah, but let's think of it like this. If you have something that's already kind of mopey or it doesn't have perspective, it's not going to suffer as much as if you create something for the purpose of its suffering.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like you have a little girl and she wants, you know, she has a balloon and it pops, and you know, some other girl, you know, makes fun of her, you know, all of this stuff, this like horrible trauma, it hurts more because it's just this happy little girl, right?
Yeah, it depends how much free will they have within this program, I guess. Like, let's say you're a god computer guy making a computer world with sentient beings. How much do you control of those beings, really? Is it on a molecular level, atomic level, or is it only through interfacing? Are you choosing that guy's depressed today with the click of a button? You know,
Well, that's the thing. I think
is this a
I think
process that you see unfolding?
yeah, I think if eventually they would kind of be like us, like they would want to say like, I want to exist in your world. Like I want to get out of this little, you know, weird dimension of flatland, and I want to go into your 3-dimensional world. I want to experience the higher dimension. That's probably like what we'd want to do, right? It's like we
I don't know. Actually, what's also funny about that is I think we might be going the other way. I mean, there's less and less. I think most people are over the moon landing. Kim Kardashian was saying the moon landing was fake recently. I think normies are just, they're done, because it just, you can't say you believe in the moon landing anymore because it's just embarrassing. Like it's, you know, it's not right. Like it
so
means,
true.
yeah. It's just, and it's tedious for the rest of the world that's trying to live in this reality. It's tedious to just keep pretending. Well, okay, so
For sure.
9/11's next.
So going outer space, going inner space, going into the metaverse, or going into, you know, an inner space actually seems more likely, more likely that we would build nanoscopic persons inside of a simulated world that is boundless, so we don't run out of property, and you can have all these NFT condominiums in this virtual reality for these workers.
I mean that to have a
money.
parallel, just a crazy parallel theory is that you know, maybe higher dimension than up than us. It's like the good developers want us to ascend to their dimension, where the bad ones are like, no, we want you to stay there, and we want to go there so we could like do whatever we want with you and make our little like NFT condos.
I mean, if you create your own world, though, obviously you could do a lot more. A lot of people would create their own worlds, I think, rather than go out and look for a barren space planet. You know,
you guys should read Ancestor. You know, like these I don't know, man. There's if you're gonna
elaborate on Ancestor also.
Oh, and Ancestor is about a transhumanist who creates an AI with a body that is the most intelligent entity that's ever existed on Earth, and it just basically transforms the book. It's a graphic novel by Malachi Ward, and it's about a guy who creates this AI, and this AI, he unlocks the potential of all humans to become gods themselves, and they all start creating their own pocket dimensions and existing in their own pocket dimensions. And then it's the process of hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years of them being gods and then getting tired of it. And it's a great book. It's one of the most important of the genre, really. But yeah,
create your own universe.
You know, the thing is that the more people that are getting tired of things like the moon landing or 9/11 or whatever other conspiracy, eventually it accumulates into mass awakening to a degree. And at that point, they try to stifle it. Like there was an awakening around 2012 when people got tired that 2012 didn't happen or something. And then the Epstein files kind of emerged gradually after that. And the Grand Illusion took hold again with things like the term woke that was spread culturally by people like Drake, as opposed to awakening. It became a cultural title, kind of like punk, where it's like you identify as that thing, that means you're a good guy, you know? And
I think also woke was a millennial term, and so millennials were all of a sudden parents, and so parents are always lame. So it was a default correlation, right?
Sure, of course. But I mean, it didn't help when Drake, you know, like when mainstream culture was talking about being woke, that means that it's been hijacked. The moment that you have government officials talking about how we need to be more woke rather than less woke, like that is a clear sign that this is a false awakening, you know. And yeah, all that to say, when you have that sort of level of people who are getting tired of the lies and the bullshit, you get an apocalypse, you get mass revelation, or like in one way or another, because at that point you have a turning point in the civilization where it's either that the tyrants show themselves as they truly are, full-on tyrants, or there's an actual revelation and then the corruption gets completely exposed and there's actual genuine change. But either way, they get exposed as real tyrants. And one of them is the tyrants get the control, and the other one is they don't get the control. Currently, we're in the one where they do get the control, but that could still accumulate in collective movement and collective revelations and apocalypse.
Oh yeah, it's November 5th. It's the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November.
It is, yeah.
Gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot, right?
Still the best.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I can't remember if it was corny or not.
It's corny good, but yeah, it's
corny good. All right, I could digest that.
It's the best Wachowski sibling movie.
Wait, the Wachowskis did
V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll give it another look. I liked the graphic novel, but I didn't really.
It's a little different.
Yeah, slipped a little bit, but no,
it's a little more optimistic. It's a little more like the other one is more like tired of everything, hyper cynic in the comics, and this one he's like, let's go and start a revolution, you know?
Right, which is arguably more true to spirit of Guy Fawkes anyway, because the idea of creating a papal monarchy over England controlled by the priest, the Pope, that was not a cynical goal. I mean, it was maybe a little cynical about democracy, but he was still clearly romanticizing some sort of like boudarchy with a dictatorship, a Catholic dictatorship.
Oh no, I've been watching too much Sink Tank, so now I'm thinking like, wait a minute, Dick Cheney just died. Next day, Mamdani becomes mayor, and now it's the 5th of November. It's like, yo, planes are crashing. Like, what's going on?
Honestly,
I've been watching Blacklist lately.
Oh, nice.
I started my girlfriend on it, and I think that it's an interesting show that has a lot of codified truths to it. Like the first season has Epstein basically split in 2 or 3 characters, and then I watch real world events, and I remember that like, everything is connected.
Yeah, that fucking caption is really funny.
Dick Cheney dies before getting to see World War III.
Yep.
It's crazy that we have to pretend that like things are as they are. It's crazy. It's literally insane, and that dude
is a killer, man.
It's so stupid too. Like it's so stupid when you realize how stupid the illusion is. Like it's so pathetic. Like humanity's got to break free from it. It's just so obvious that like at some point you're like, bro, like pay attention even a little. You know?
I mean, let's take it. Let's take the purpose of it to what your framework was, which was based on like the whole cyclical thing. Maybe it's just like modern druidism. Maybe they're just doing these elaborate rituals of like death and destruction and chaos with like ecstasy cycled in, and maybe it's just all to kind of harvest our energy.
Maybe it is all just energy vampirism, and that's more accurate than literal vampirism. You know, and no matter what, like. Energy vampirism that has to be real in some form or another. It's silly to deny that energy vampires exist when they clearly feed off of our time and our life force in some form or another, especially if money and life force are intertwined, you know. And it's so stupid though. Like you look at like everyone knows that you can't trust all the headlines in the newspaper. Like we're fully aware. We look at it and go like, oh, like sometimes the government lies and sometimes they're going to make fake headlines and blah, blah, because these shows like Blacklist trained us to know this. They make us go, oh yeah, obviously the world is more complex. So it's like, I don't, it's hard to discern what the plan is, but it seems like this is like magic unfolding, right? Like this culture is like a battlegrounds for wizards to wage war, and they speak to each other through codified messages. And so, it's not all negative, but I think it requires nuance. It's just, where do we draw that line? Is it all part of the same goal, the same end game? I don't know.
I've been trying to follow this conversation without like mentioning God, so I'm gonna keep that up. I'm gonna see how far I can do.
Bro, go for it. Say
No,
what
I mean,
gotta,
no, I mean, I think it's fair.
say.
I think it's
You
fair
talk about
to.
any god you want, really. There's so many gods you can be talking about. So
Well, I think it's fair to give God a break on this one. Let him sit it out if he wants. If he wants to show himself, or it, or the all, like I don't know.
It's just a matter of time.
well, it's interesting. I like this Mithra thing, man, because it's just weird to think about that this was the most common religion in Rome until like the 4th century, when Christianity really overtook it. And so that means like the 2nd and 3rd century, particularly, a lot of people were in this Mithra cult. And even though it was based on Mithra, which is the sun god, like Sol Invictus, our sun, basically like a sun worship. That's kind of what they mean when they say Constantinople, we're into sun worshiping. It's it's that the Roman Empire, or all of Europe essentially, was into sun worshiping.
Yeah.
But that's so different, I guess, or something, because the Roman version of it, it's contested at how similar it was, or if they had their own version of it that was different.
What I'm really wondering though is, like, even with all these cults and secret orders or whatever,
yeah,
like
this was also at the time, this was their religion. This is so basically like Constantinople was under Constantine, who became, I don't know if he actually converted to Christianity or if he pretended, but he decided to make Christianity the state religion. And at that point, they changed the worshiping Sabbath to Sunday, because the Mithra cult worshipped on a Sunday, right? So, and there's other things too, like the whole religion's about like eating together and having this sort of shared bread, and a lot of the Eucharist thing is an emphasis from the Mithra cult. And so a lot of the traditions, I think the reason I brought up earlier, right, because you were talking about how these are rehashings, all these holidays, and Christmas is Saturnalia or whatever, like the worship of the solstice, at least around Christmas, is the beginning of when nights start to get long, when days start to get longer, right? So it's the end of nights getting longer and days getting shorter. So it's like the worship of that. So I don't know. It's just interesting to think about what people mean when they say God and what they're worshiping. And
that's true. I also, but I mean, regardless of like the actual deity involved, like through this worship and through the rituals and the practices, supposedly you get power, and power comes in many forms. I think if you're in a state, for example, to treat people more compassionately, that could be very powerful. You could have a crazy effect on your immediate society very quickly. Or, like maybe you're just gifted like sociopathic insight. Like here's, this is what it would feel like to be a person who would sacrifice a person. Now that you followed those steps, you could now think like that. You could unlock that framework.
Yeah. People, we all know some people who follow certain religions, and they're empowered by them no matter what. I know people who are really inclined towards Nordic mythology, and this inclination it empowers them. You can see it in the way they carry themselves, the way that they're proud about what they have and what they believe in, and that is a source of power that moves worlds. Everyone who has it in any faith, in any belief, is empowered by them, because it anchors them to reality and it gives them something to live for and to believe in. And different deities, different purposes, right? Like you don't go to Odin because you want to be compassionate to people. Like you go to Odin because you're trying to access that warrior essence and wisdom and everything. But it's not the function of those gods. But you don't have to distill it like that. I think that's like, it's a form of separation that ends off kind of, I don't know, losing the point of gods in the first place. It's like, it just depends how we define our terms. Like gods, we retroactively labeled all these things gods, but they were always just like archetypes and things that people chose to embody and emulate. Like the earliest gods, you build the pagans, they build an archetype, and then they worship it and embody it and emulate it and become that thing, you know. And we can all do that at any time. You can feel like people put on the Batman costume and suddenly they feel their personality change just by wearing it, not even by getting into character. There's a shift in your being when you embody something that is a higher representation. But God
What does this
itself,
verse mean, bro? What are you talking about, Andor? What's the Romans 1:25? Who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. I feel like I'm missing context. I'm gonna check out the rest of that. Maybe.
Yeah. I think I figure if I were to ever practice any ritual or anything, I think my main goal wouldn't really be to satisfy. It would be harmony. I try to cultivate harmony, you know,
that's a good
inner
one.
harmony at the very least, you know, so my mind, body, and soul are like not at war. And so my habits aren't like conflicting with, say, like what I want, with like the peace I want for myself or something. Also, you know, not fucking up the environment is, I guess, like kind of a good one to put up there if I could.
It's crazy because language is so entwined with old mythology that like we don't even notice it. Like I learned last week that one of the names of Jupiter is Jove, and that's where the term jovial comes from. And so to be jovial is to be in the spirit of Jupiter, and it was connected to Jupiter worship. And I wonder how much of this is entwined in our language, and this creates the basis for our program, our collective software, I guess it would be. You know, like language as software, human as hardware.
Yeah. I like the idea of like your astrological signs or your birth date coding would just be like your manufacturer. It's like, oh, you're a Toshiba. It's like, oh, you're a Sony.
Sure. I don't know. I guess you could see it as like avatars of those things, right? Like if you embody jovial spirit, are you the avatar of Jupiter? I guess it depends how much you embody it, right? And if you want to be more like, I don't know, a god, then you should probably orient your thinking towards what would God actually be like. And
yeah. I
don't know. When people talk about God, I think of the Brahman, the Godhead. Anytime anyone mentions any God, the source God, any highest God point, I'm like, well, you're talking about, you know, the source. It's the same thing. You're just going to name it different things and then pretend that the names make it a different God. I'm like, that's just words. You're mistaken. You're mistaking the thing you're pointing at for the finger you're using to point it at with. That's the basis for most of these wars. Because my finger is better at pointing than yours, basically.
Yeah.
So you know, if you like a certain figure, any figure, and you want to be more like them, you can try it by trying to embody them more and more. Like, you know, if you like Elvis, they go and dress up like Elvis and then they become like Elvis. But if you want to be more like Buddha, then like try to copy exactly what Buddha was doing, and then you can try to sort of manifest his avatar through.
Strangely, they're very similar, aren't they? I mean, they both started out skinny and got fat and everything. I mean, or at least
yeah, but Elvis did it all in one lifetime. So I guess that's
you got to give him a little bit more credit.
Yeah, he fast tracked that shit.
I think if there is one idea that I hope people like digest if they do start to believe in deities and gods or a god, is that they don't hate you. God doesn't hate you. So
that's a hard one.
Because some people will be like, I can't believe in a God. If God is real, God must hate me. And I'm like, no, dude. If God's real, God doesn't hate you. I don't think so anyway.
Themselves.
Yeah, it's really what it boils down to, because you can't control God, but you could control your own actions. And if you don't like your own actions, you just forgot you could control them. And it's all like inner work ultimately to like apply it practically to life. so that
It's
you don't
hard
live
to-
so that you don't live every day thinking life fucking hates me, life happens to me, God hates me. Like that's a destructive state. It's hard. I've
For
been
sure.
there. I've lived in that state before, and it's not sustainable. It's not good.
It's hard because it kind of instills when you're innocent. Like when you're a little kid and something happens to you, like child abuse in any form, usually that lays the groundwork for hypercynicism for a long time, and it requires healing to undo it. So people they go like, well, I was hurt as a kid, therefore God must hate me. Like what did I do to deserve it as a kid? Like I as an adult, they can rationalize it. They can go, oh, I did this and this person was mad at me. But if you're going to go and do it as a kid, like, okay, well then God has to be angry. But that's obviously a mistake. Like it's not the way that things actually work. It's just the way we process things as children. But it's not fair.
Is Trump Elvis?
Probably.
What do you think, Kurt?
Nice to see all of you. Hope you're all doing well. You are my favorite part of the karmic circle. Being right here.
Oh, nice.
In front of all of you.
Nice.
Thank you.
I can't say. I cannot say. How are you all doing though?
We're here to eat your sin, brother.
What? You don't have to talk about Elvis. I was just gonna find that picture though. You ever seen the picture of Jimi
Donald
Hendrix
Trump. Donald Trump is obviously Bill Hicks.
So Jimi Hendrix drew this picture of Elvis Presley, and it's freaking Donald Trump, right? And there's that whole thing that Jimi Hendrix is Morgan Freeman, which is fun too, right? Yeah.
Nice.
I love this one. This one's fun.
I'm still really. I like the Alex Jones as Bill Hicks one. That is one of my favorite conspiracy theories.
Morgan Freeman drew Elvis, or Jimi Hendrix drew Trump. Either way.
Yo, look up Richard Dawkins and Emma Watson. That's one of my favorite ones.
I'm scared to do this.
Yo, dude, you're gonna freak out.
Is this safe? Oh yeah. They're the same person. That's right. You know what? This is what they call the selfish gene. That's really.
I call this mild Photoshop.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know. It's still freaky.
Yeah. They just fine tune a little bit of things, a little bit of traits, because obviously they have the same physiology.
Yeah. Well, British people, man. What are you gonna do? They don't have a lot of genes up there left.
Limited variety.
Yeah. So wait, we're saying something about Jimi Hendrix, and then Kurt, you were going to tell us about some philosophical conundrum of your life.
I'm just happy to be here. I am just happy to be here. I was working yesterday, and I got really tired from working. Not just from standing and walking around. I was like, I need to lose some weight. Losing like 10 pounds.
No, I want to zoom on this. Really, is that true? You think you do?
So comparatively, I think compared to most lifestyles these days, I might be considered decently healthy. But back in the 80s, I saw a meme where Al Bundy apparently was supposed to be like a fat guy, the fat, he butt of the joke of the show, but he wasn't like he just looked like a relatively in shape dad, So it's like, if you just shed, like, if you get down to like being like actually like, oh, you can see your rib cage, it's like, well, you can do physical labor a lot more easily. Well, depending, it's weird. Having
your
weight
best bet is to gain strength.
Gain strength.
Yeah, man. Like it's if you can. I mean, it's important to lose weight as well. Like I'm currently at like 180. I've been hovering around 200, 210 during COVID. And it took a while to get it down, but keep building that muscle, build your muscle as much as possible, and then weight loss will also come. Cut out your bread if you can, bro. That's the key, really. Bread is the killer.
I think it's so easy. You can I think you, instead of just like having all the science behind what we're eating and all these different diet programs, they're out there. And I'm not saying what has worked for me. Like I saw memes about don't count your calories, count your macros, or like whatever. And it was just kind of weird. But it's like, what if we just thought about the food as like, oh, I'm absorbing whatever karmic energy is in my food. And when
I love that. I talked about that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're absorbing flour is the embodiment of laziness. It's just cheap and easy and mass-produced food, like, well, of course that's going to stick to you, man, But you have to murder that rabbit with your bare hands. That's going to make you skinny.
That's true. Rabbits don't. You could starve to death eating nothing but rabbit. But
in the West, we have an obsession with not having our tummies grumbling. But the moment our stomachs like start grumbling at all, we freak out and we go like, I got to put a bunch of food inside of me as fast as 3 meals a day, snacks, as much as everything as possible. And we just lose track of it because it's part of our neurological like self-maintenance. We just go like, okay, well, I'm low on whatever, dopamine, endorphin, anything. We mistaken that for hunger in the first place. We eat it, we feel good from it, and then we go, oh, well, now I'm not hungry. The thing is, if you were to do 20 squats, your brain would produce the fucking endorphin, dopamine, and anyways. So do that instead of eating. Like your body, when it eats itself. It's purging, it's burning off the dead wood internally when you're hungry. That's what fasting does. So, and then it starts producing more cells for growth and for trying to build your strength. It's like your body's going, oh, you're not eating, therefore we have to make you strong so you can find food. As opposed to if you're overeating, then your body's like, well, why do I have to bother? I'm in abundance, therefore I can just like chill, And that's like the hibernation cycles. That's like the cycle of, oh, we're in abundance during summer. Okay, now we're in lack during winter, but your body naturally would be doing this. It would be cleansing itself. Now we just go eat 24 hours a day, 365 days, any food, anytime, anywhere. Oh, I'm hungry. I'm going to go get a Coca-Cola and a chocolate bar or something,
Yo,
so,
I
focus on exercise.
I felt the closest like I was going to die the first time I had the keto flu. Like I was just switching over to ketosis or just eating all meat. And man, like my body, I think went through a serious just withdrawal. I was like on the kitchen floor, just like sweating in a cold sweat. And I was like, oh man, I mean, I knew it was going to happen eventually, but I didn't know like how intense it could be, but it felt like kind of felt purifying, like I must go through the fires of hell.
I wonder if it's a parasite thing. Like we have parasites. We all have parasites. It's impossible not to, especially if you eat meat. If you've ever eaten sushi, fish, like at some points we all have some kind, and they're mostly unnoticeable in our system. But I'm on a binge of that question right now of just like, what is that relationship with parasites? And if you something like if you eat a whole bunch of meat only, like are the ones that feed off of that in a frenzy in your body, like a feeding frenzy, And if you stop, like do they freak out and they start defending themselves? And like, is that related to sickness? I don't know. These are questions that are hard to ask because the official thing is always don't even ask the question,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think if you deny yourself like just that kind of carnal pleasure for like extended periods of time, whether it's like eating, sexual satisfaction, even just like walking around and like having like tics and twitches or like tapping your foot, which is why meditation I think is so powerful, or like a real like hardcore prayer. And when I say hardcore, I just mean, no, you sit there, you don't move. And it's like, if you don't hear God, just keep sitting. Like if it takes an hour, just fucking keep staying there, man.
Yeah. It's like taking mushrooms. Oh, you didn't get the experience? Well, take more,
Yeah.
For when it comes to the losing weight thing, man, I think that I mean, I've been through this process up and down, and like I'm accredited and as a fitness instructor, like I've done enough research to know that like focus on building strength, and the rest will follow, because your muscles are going to do all the work for you after. So start with that base. Losing weight is great, but you're just going to find yourself weak at the end. And so start building strength, and then your body will be strong enough to maintain being skinny and strong, you know? That makes
Kurt,
sense.
Don't you swim a lot, by the way?
Oh, I would love to, but yeah, I am in central Pennsylvania, so it's like I like going to the beach, and I like making trips to Florida, so I do a ton of swimming when I do that. But still contemplating the move to Florida. I think right now I'm gonna try to aim to do a summer job in Florida where I can do quite a lot of that. We'll see what happens, because getting a new job is weird.
Supposedly Florida's the new wave. Like I think I heard something about like no income tax and no property tax or some crazy shit like that. If it's true, I would really consider hopping over to Florida. Same time zone, so work hours would be the same.
Yeah, I think
federal.
no income tax for the state. I think they're trying to work on no property tax as well, which there's I'm not saying I'm a fan, or like I love
that
the
might
idea.
make everything there more expensive though, right? I mean, because you have to tax people some way, or how is the state trying to get money if they're not? They must be taxing in different methods, right?
If we if we just had one form of taxation, like if all you taxed were transactions of some sort, like when it comes to property, like if you were trying to be like a super libertarian about it, you could tax I think down that mindset, you could tax the sale of property, but you couldn't tax the property itself. That would keep, that would deter, a lot of the stories of like, oh, these old people lived in their house for 50 years and now they can't afford the income tax. Like, yeah, those situations actually suck, and that would be, a way to prevent those sorts of situations. But it's hard for me to get to be an ideologue about the government anymore, because it's like, well, what if you view it just in forms of energy? And like you really have to get down to the roots of building society to get into philosophical critiques about different systems, because like, well, what if you are anti-system? It's I've been watching a lot about El Chapo recently. Don't mean to get on a new subject, but holy cow, that's a really interesting story. Being on the run for 7 years. But Chris has a new mayor. How's the world changing for you, Chris, with that new mayor?
Dude, I do not give a single flying hoot about who's mayor of New York City. I haven't for a while. I'm just glad I'm one step closer to never listening to Cuomo speak ever again. I mean, I don't care about his policies. I just can't fucking listen to that guy anymore.
Yeah, I think
done.
Rudy verified that Rudy Giuliani posted a meme and said, "You forgot America," and I was like, "Whoa, that sounds like that is surprising how charged that is." But it's that part of the political world is going to be interesting to watch, I guess, if you're really into the sport of politics. Don't mean to talk too much. Andreas, it looks like you've seen some things in the past couple of weeks. Like,
oh God.
Yeah, you've seen some stuff. Maybe like you feel like you should be traumatized, but you're like, I've kind of been in this situation before. What do you think?
That's a pretty good diagnosis. It's not bad. Yeah.
I know what he's traumatized by. I feel it too. We've all felt it.
Yeah. Oh,
bro, you're not alone. You're not alone. That's why fraternity exists.
That's right.
Brother,
I don't know, but Andrew's the one who has to live in a hotel because of some plane crash. I'm not sure if I'm exaggerating the scenario, but so it makes me wonder about everyone else. I feel like that they're going through far more intense things than any one of. Yeah, I mean, right? That seems like a lot, and people dying in systematic order, like you were saying, as a sinkhead, Chris. We're definitely in a weird transition period after Dick Cheney's dead. I feel like the whole world's becoming ready for a new chapter as
the government shut down.
Yeah. of course, around the election, like he dies of pneumonia at the beginning of the election, which seems like a new.
I'm reporting from Canada to tell you it's strange in Canada too. We have
I know Katy Perry is the new first lady, right? That's the
no. Justin Trudeau's been out of office for a long time now. He's been replaced by Mark Carney, who is he was the head of the banking of some of the banks in UK, and now he's our prime minister. And it's been a few months, and he just announced the budget and stuff, and they're talking about there's going to be an election in December, so we'll see right before 3i Atlas hits, I figure, and it'll be a turning point for everything at that point. Strange times. Stand up straight, you know.
Stefan says, can someone please explain the difference between democratic socialism and national socialism? Isn't, I guess, democratic socialism more international in a sense because you're accepting anyone in the democracy? It's not necessarily a nation democracy.
I figure that the difference is that democracy implies that people are more in charge of it, while national socialism implies that the nation's in charge of it, so the state. And I don't know. International socialism sounds expansion oriented, you know.
The nation is really just a group of people who have a shared ideal, so it doesn't seem that different from
well, if it's shared ideals, then it's like we're kind of like oscillating between this collective mentality as Americans, at least, of like, things are really not fair, so we got to kind of even it out. Basically, if you stick out too much, you're going to get clipped. Whereas, you know, there's other points in our era where we're like, you know what? Yeah, competition's good. You should try to compete. You should try to go as hard as you can. You know, screw the guys if they can't keep up. Like, you're the winner. And then like once that gets out of hand, then it's like, oh no, we get overcome with the envy, and we just flip out when we see like our neighbors unfairly having more than us.
It's an unbalanced issue, right? Like you can't have it can't be a balanced society if there's so much inequality, but at the same time, like a balance, like a pyramid structure can't seem to be avoided. At some point, all that they're really doing is changing the pyramid tip with another pyramid tip and going like, now it's different. Like or they try to flip the entire pyramid on its head. But at that point, you know, like you have an inverted value structure that values poverty over abundance, you know. And I don't know, like I feel like people worship the ideology itself. Like they replace a dictator.
Religion. They replace religion with
they replace a dictator for the thing that he dictates. Like they worship the dictation itself instead of the dictator, you know. And so you have people who are ideologically supremacist, basically. Like it's supremacy across the board, where you have if you're going to make everyone have shared ideals, that means homogeny. That means homogeny into a supremacist ideology that positions the ideology as supreme over everything else. And then you can justify anything: mass death, famine, taking away people's rights, like everything. You just go, they don't share our values, so we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, your ideological enemies must perish in the most fieriest of fiery hells. It sucks.
To the gulags.
Yeah.
Kurt, what are your thoughts on shared values?
Oh, if only we lived in such a world where we had shared values. That would be amazing. I don't know. I feel like we're kind of too deep in the well of hyper individualism to do a whole lot of spiritual growth at the moment. But you know, time is a loop. I'm trying to think outside of the perspective of like, okay, what's happening right now, and like, yeah, how do you really show care and concern for people? How do you expand, you know, the great awesomeness, the great awesome dimensions of the God consciousness? And like, yeah, I think the ultimate point is that there's always a cost to having an empire and a society. And so it's like really for the United States right now, we're in that cycle of like I would call it empire fatigue. We're in a huge point of empire fatigue, and like, there's a lot of complacency that came out of that, and so it's hard because like I think with a lot of the younger generations, there's this huge sense of hopelessness and nihilism, like probably more extreme than when we've seen in the past. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong too, but you want them to grow up in a world that looks appreciates both the present and has an appreciation for what could be in the future. And I don't think we're kind of in a moment where that sentiment is really held, and it might take a long time than we're a lot more time than we're used to kind of reverse that cycle. So, and if it doesn't happen in the U.S., that's going to just reform and rebirth itself in another part of the world. I think that's generally just kind of how we interact with each other. But hopefully, that's a reasonable answer. Maybe, I don't know.
Someone also asked. They said we need an extra hour of APM. I don't know about that, but Kurt, give us your thoughts on reality.
Reality is, man. That's define reality. I think that's what we're
reality is.
I think that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to define reality, and it's we're subjective elements that are dispersed throughout this reality, and it's really hard to cope with that. It's hard to cope with the fact that the greater reality could do an inversion and take you out and say, like, no, you're part of me now. Where we just have this little tiny window of existence where we can experience that selfness. So like, oh, I get this illusion that I'm a separate entity from the greater outer reality. But eventually there's an inversion. Yeah, at the end of your life, you're like, nope, you're mine now. That's what reality does. It says, nope, you're mine now. You only bought into that delusion for 70 or 80 years that you were a separate entity from me.
But what if you're dreaming and you're dreaming?
Do you know you're dreaming?
No, I mean, like in those instances, like, what would you see that as kind of a parallel? Like, would that be possible in your reflection of reality?
I'm just saying, right now, you're saying that you know that you're not dreaming.
No, I'm saying, what if? Like, I was asking, is like such a thing possible? Me personally, I mean, the only thing I can be sure of is that I die, regardless of how I live, regardless of the choices I make, regardless of what I do. And I'm gonna die at the end of the story, and I can't take my friends with me. I can't take my money with me. I can't take my body with me. So to me, that's kind of like this idea of if you're in a dream and you know you're dreaming, well, I know I'm gonna wake up. If I don't, then like I have some existential problems to worry about. But from what I conventionally know about dreaming is you have to wake up eventually. I kind of like view life in the same way. I know it has to end sometime. Like, I don't want to waste my time on endeavors that, that are only satisfying with the notion that I'm going to live forever in this reality when I'm really not.
Yeah. And I think that's the simplified version is Chris is saying that he knows that he's dreaming. Does everyone in the audience, do you also know that you're dreaming? It's a wild thing to think about.
Well, we all should know that, but the thing is, what makes us forget? Like, what makes us like forget that for like
Philip K. Dickham, Vincent. Philip K. Dickham in the mouth.
Reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. Philip K. Dick. I mean, it depends how we define reality, of course. Like that's a framework. But I think there's a difference between reality and truth. As truth is a construct. You're told what truth is, and you're told what reality is, but it's not true reality, and it's not true truth. Truth is used, like there's a lot of people out there who don't care about truth. They view it as pure fabrication either way, because it's a collection of symbols. That's what truth is. It's a collection of symbols, and symbols are not reality. Symbols represent reality. And so people were willing to use the idea of truth to get whatever they want, and the goal for a lot of these different groups is to create a social technology that is consistent within itself, that has internal logic that works, and that this makes it true. And so apply it and you can live a certain way with the mentality that this is what truth is. And as long as you don't die and you actually reproduce, then you can actually continue. And so that truth is stronger than their truth because you successfully continued the species and continued in harsh environments.
I like to say that sync is greater than truth, that Mythoclast is saying, because sync, or at least maybe truth and sync are not the thing. It's like reality versus, I'm trying to figure out how to say it, because
you sync synchronicity, synchronizing as part of reality. Well, that's like when you align in the moment here now.
You said patterns though. You said collection of patterns. I would say collection of symbols. I would say collection of patterns.
So,
and that's why sync happens, because of the patterns.
So reality, it's not that symbol. You said that symbols are not reality, but that symbols are
represent
reality. I would say that backwards. I think that reality is false narrative, or at least it's narrative, and reality is a narrative that is shaped around symbols, and the symbols are maybe the most, maybe not real, but true thing. They're the primordial symbols that everything or reality is trying to emulate, these fundamental symbols.
Well, reality, like, we project our perception on things, and that thing that we're projecting on is the reality in the first place.
There's reality and there's rules, right? There's like the rules for the physics engine. The reality is taking place in.
But the engine itself is reality. And so out of this engine, we can create all these things, and we can change our perception of it and our experience of it. But without our perception and our experience, it's still there. And some other thing is going to experience it, and some other thing is going to project its experience on it, whether it's humans or even other humans. Like your own perception, you can't see what you don't believe is possible, basically, because your brain will automatically contextualize it as something else within what you do deem possible. So you won't be able to see ghosts even if they come and talk to you, because you'll rationalize it away. It's cognitive dissonance. You're experiencing something that your axiomatic beliefs about reality have shaped reality into being limited as. But reality is not what we say it is. Reality is what it is. It's not made of words. Reality is not actually made of words. Our perception is made of words. That's the software that we project on the engine. And we are hardware in that engine, or I guess software, if the engine would be hardware or something. But yeah, I mean, reality, it's a word, it's a word like any other.
Like infinity.
It's that old thing about mistaking the thing you're pointing at for the pointer. Words are the pointer. The moon is not the finger pointing at it. And that's true. Like, I think that reality at its base it's God's dream and our dream synchronized together. And it's the grander mind and the lower mind. People seem to think it's all about humans and everything that we do with our consciousness, but then they don't give the consciousness of reality itself the credit it deserves, because it imagines us.
I keep thinking about how the world is so much different than it used to be, and maybe in the peak period is in the late 80s to the early 2000s. There's the Top Gun technology future world, and it feels like that's breaking apart, that's not as common anymore. The technology is being forgotten how it functions. It's all locked down and people don't know how to use it, right? The whole thing means that it won't exist. Like in these planes crashing, there's less people that know how to take care of these systems. So a lot of these systems will disappear.
Yeah. Well, it's the death of the old, sorry.
That's that you could say that leads to the rise of communism in a lot of instances, because you have like a pool of people who are like highly educated in a specific skill, and then some technological revolution happens, and suddenly like all those people like are less, like they see less educated people being suddenly like making more than them, acquiring more resources than them despite their specialization. And then what are they going to do? They're going to collectivize. They're going to be all pissed off. And they're going to be like, this system is broken. The system is fucked. It's unfair. And they probably be right sometimes, you know?
Well, there's industries that are sustained because we need people to work and we need people to have money. That's the only reason they're sustained, as opposed to being automated or applying new technology that we know will solve these problems. We go, no. That person still needs to make a living, still needs to be kept busy for 40 hours a week. So let's keep them in that place. And that in itself, stutters the development of a civilization, because you're not updating your economic system, but you're updating your technology, and it's not matching. And you're going, that 60, 70-year-old woman has to work at the grocery store because she needs to keep doing this cycle and doing this thing over and over for the old economic system that is now obsolete. And then we're gradually replacing it. We're going, okay, well, now we have automatic, you can check out your own stuff. Okay, that's a step. So now they can, they're wiping out basically the old generation as systemically. And then they're justifying everything with that, going, well, our workforce is low. Okay, but you're replacing most jobs in like 10 years anyways with robots. So like, what's the plan? Are you going to make all these people just die? Is that the idea?
That's the plan. That's the harvest of souls. That's like the big event. World War III, Civil War.
It can't be avoided in some form or another. It's a collapse. But I don't know. Maybe that's just the destiny of every civilization. Like you build up billions of people, you get all the gold you can, and then you get rid of the lead or something, Alchemy. Sure.
A lot of the jobs aren't going to be automated and will just be lost. There's going to be a serious loss in translation and compression artifacts, and everything will be, you're not going to have every artisanal pasta recipe saved properly. Things are going to be different.
Maybe you'll have maybe you'll have archaeologists of abstractions coming forth as a profession.
I think the key is in the old methods that are still physical, like the underground comics rose back in the day, not because of like mass printing presses and like all these systems they had. People would redraw them by hand over and over and then make copies and spread them. And that's the DIY-est way to do it. But that's ancient, Oh, I found out that Caspar, one of the three magi, is the patron saint of playing card manufacturers. And that is wild to me. Like, that points to ancient games and ancient sort of ways to make these things. Like, it's been around for a long, long time. And so, use those technologies. So you just have to put it in your pocket and share it with someone, and then it spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads, as opposed to through a screen where anything you own can be deleted anytime by the people who own the platform, basically.
Like chopsticks.
Sure. Better to use chopsticks than have a robot spoon feed you.
That was like Andreas's story, how he was like, all the other kids were making like forks and shit. I was making chopsticks, bro.
It's way more practical. It doesn't take as much to carve, by the way.
And you can defend yourself better.
Yeah.
And even if you lose chopsticks, it doesn't take that much effort to make new ones.
Right. But also just learning how to use chopsticks means if you find a couple sticks, you can do the same thing. It's maybe not as good as having a better, it's maybe sword fighting is a similar example. When you know how to sword fight, you can probably hit someone really hard with whatever you come downstairs with in the middle of the night.
Not to give you some karate wisdom here, but apparently the key to hitting hard with a sword is to just let the sword do the work and for you to get out of the way. Yeah.
I'm sure that's also true about baseball bats and crowbars and
golf,
just about anything, really.
Yeah. If you don't get out of the way, you hit yourself. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite is when people swing a baseball bat and then what they hit on rebounds and hits them in the face. So like they hit the baseball bat, hits them in the face because they don't know how to control strength and they don't know how to hit. People lost all that. They don't know that if you hit something too hard with your fist, it'll break your hand. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of technologies will just disappear though, and there's going to be like movies already. I don't feel they exist the same way they used to. Like, there's no reason to make indie movies the way people used to watch indie movies. So you're more likely to
what about
go.
music?
Yeah, music's gone. It's crazy. Oh well. Now
Look.
with the Udio just got purchased, so there was a lawsuit with the two big AI music companies, Suno and Udio. Suno is still in the race, and it's a rad company, and I support them and always like them. You know, make a lot of music with that. Udio was in a joint lawsuit, but really the lawsuit was UMG Records against Udio, and they either lost. I don't think they really lost though. I think they just made some sort of a deal, like a plea bargain kind of deal, and they sold themselves to Satan. You know, like they literally are now owned by UMG. The record company owns Udio, not Suno. It's still okay, but Udio. All of a sudden, the next day, you couldn't download any more of your files, any of the files you'd made like over the years prior. And yeah, they're going to turn it into some sort of a record company AI music production suite, which is kind of like what we talked about at some point in the past, that you'll get a Kanye record, but instead of a record, you'll get a Kanye generative AI system, and it'll let you make music specifically,
and it'll censor what you can make.
True. And you'll be able to go to school and tell your friends, hey, what did you make with the new Taylor Swift
All right, but
generative algorithm?
Look, I'm going to try to play angel's advocate, devil's advocate, whatever it is. I think that it's gonna be a co-play sort of thing. Like they're gonna make AI-powered guitars and AI-powered drums and AI-powered instruments, but people will want to still physically hold these things. And so there's always going to be people who are there's always going to be a market, because it's ancient to pluck the guitar and to hit the drums. It's one of the oldest things in our being. And so
I love that.
You know, I think that it'll be like, oh, you're playing drums, and then you have a co-drummer that's playing with you at the same time on your drum set that's like always hitting double pedal or whatever because legs get tired. So give them the hardest task, you know, or things like that. But it won't only be that like people it will exclusively be looking into the black box, and the black box will hold everything, you know, like it could. But I think that human creativity just is compelled. You know, it's like I had no reason to listen to Led Zeppelin back in the day, but I went like, what shoulders do we stand on naturally? It's just how people are, you know, like what are the giants that we stand on? And we will be compelled to go and look back into the past over and over. And it could be that this sort of hyper focus on technology, on AI, is going to compel something within humans to be like, hey, I think we should like sing, you know, like I think we should do it ourselves. I think that there's something within us that is telling us to do it, and they will. They'll sing along to the AI, if anything, but at least they'll sing. At least like human creativity has been restricted by monopolized markets for a long time now. Like there's always the DIY people who come out, and they're counterculture. And they come in and go like, do it all yourself. You don't need the corporation selling you the manufactured stuff, you know, like all the people stop singing, they stop dancing, they stop playing instruments en masse because they're like, no, it's only professionals do that shit. But for all of history, it was just part of our being. It was just in our hearts. We're gonna sing, we're gonna whistle, we're gonna dance, we're gonna move our feet to the rhythm. It's just part of being human, and that will resurface. It'll be part of the rebirth of the archaic, and it'll come back because it can't be squashed forever. Like rebellion exists forever, you know. The rebellious impulse is there for a reason. It's because not all things are as they should be, and they can be.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here all day behind DAWs and fucking use like Suno or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's like it's nothing like just picking up the guitar and like writing a song. But I also think I view it in parallel as like martial arts practice, because like, you know, nowadays nobody's really fucking out there fighting with swords and shit, but people primarily practice it during peacetime, quote unquote, so that they could kind of get like an internal sense of mastery. It goes back to your agency. Like, if I could do this, if I could like do this well enough, what else can I do? So even in like a climate of all primarily AI media, AI generated media, I think people still will be compelled to just to see if they could do it. Like, can I play this instrument? You know, like,
Yeah.
And I think that'll lead to like, that'll be more of like an inner development practice, you know, because like they'll say to themselves, I know like everyone's just playing like using like AI to make music, but hey, I just you know, I like what I can do with the guitar.
It's like, you know, when I sent you that video, I don't remember what it was called, the martial arts in China that is just lethal. I don't know if you watched the video in the end.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a martial artist who rejected the traditional propagandized martial arts mythos that was proposed by Chinese culture, by Chinese government, and that was reinforced by it. He went like, no. If you want to survive, you have to be a fucking savage. You have to like, you know, stab them with scissors, use whatever, you gouge out eyes, everything. And it was the principle of having no principles in a fight. And then they started using it in the police and stuff because they're like, this is true. Well, we're gonna fight them with like traditional like Tai Chi or something. Like,
but to me, that's like the equivalent of like the guitarist who could just shred like nobody's business. But it's like, but trying to jam with him is like so shitty. He's like angry all the time. He's like, your way sucks. My way is superior.
The thing is that what that demonstrated to me was a deconstruction of the matrices that kept people in a certain structure for a very, very long time. And those structures were super important. They were martial arts. That's what people forget in modernity. Like you said, in times of war, that was necessity. Now it's about internal discipline or a game or competition, and that loses the essence of it. You know, like people criticize that guy because they're going like, it's dishonorable. And it's like, okay, but like you guys were farmers who started using farming equipment to decapitate people and to defend yourselves against warriors who were actually trained. And so now it's no longer about that necessity to survive. It's about, oh, well, it's MMA and like there's rules, and you know, like if you can't kneel when he's down, it's like,
I think in martial combat, the great, like when it comes to fighting, like, you know, hand to hand or whatever weapons and competing or whatever, I think the illusion is the fighting. It's like you think that it's like my fighting style against your fighting style. It's really not the case. The truth is, it's actually my reason for fighting versus your reason for fighting. And I said this before. I was like, as a practitioner, I've seen people come in with all sorts of reasons to practice. Some people just want to know if they can do it. Some people just want more confidence. Some people just want to hurt people. Some people just want to make some friends. And I'm saying like, whatever, if you do the work, your reason is valid. For me personally, my reason is always going to be practice. Practice is the goal. And I say that as words, but I guess the real reason I say that is because to me, practice like helps me get closer to God, you know, like helps me burn away the impurities, helps me get out of my own way. And then it's like, what's left? You know, when you take away Chris's bad habits, when you take away the wasted time and you dump it all into just martial practice and consistently sticking to it in a dedicated way, forget all the other reasons. This is it. Just me practicing will provide everything, you know? And I think like same could be said for music. Like you don't have to do it for the props. You don't have to do it for the fame. You don't have to do it for, you know, whatever reason. You could just do it for the practice. And if you do that only for the practice, all this other bullshit in your life starts to burn away. If you just dedicate it to practice, and you get benefits, like you get blessings.
Well, I think that's the difference between discipline and obsession. Like obsession will make you cycloptic, while discipline will make you balanced, like proper balance, you know, as opposed to being like, okay, well, I'm going to say become the best guitarist in the world out of anger and pursuit of power and like these sort of things, versus being like, I'm a music appreciator who can play every instrument or whatever, you know, like.
Well, there's literally people who pursue music because for them it gets them closer to God, to Jesus. Like they play music because to them this like playing for this church saved my fucking life.
I think it's all meditation. It's all different forms of meditation. Meditation,
dissociation
means focus, and so anything you focus on allows you to become to get into the flow state, and flow state is meditation. And as long as you can do that.
I think this is the light side to trauma programming. Trauma programming is like the dark way to fundamentally change your state in your psyche through like whatever means, through dissociation or just pure flow state focus. That's the dark way. The light way is probably just giving yourself, like kind of traumatizing yourself in a way, just by saying like, honestly, forget that shit right now. Like nothing else matters. What matters is I'm here to practice, and I'm just going to practice, dedicate my time. And you just don't let anything else get in the way. And that's kind of like programming yourself, you know?
Yeah, well, trauma programming seems to be when your trauma programs you, combined with the cultural framework that you're experiencing it in. But like, if you're able to, because life is suffering. I mean, life, no matter what happens, something's going to happen at some point. There's all traumas at some point. Like, trauma is a big word that a lot of people think in radical terms, but it can be the smallest trauma to the biggest trauma. Like, you can kill a butterfly by accident, and that is a form of trauma. Nothing much, it's a tiny scratch, but trauma is trauma. That's the definite. If you scratch your arm versus if you get your arm cut off, both are traumatic, you know? And if you manage to recognize that there's certain things you can do in relation to certain traumas, that becomes a form of technology that you can program yourself with, as opposed to.
Well, realization could be traumatic. Like, let's say you're a kid, you grew up bullied your whole life, and then you somehow get talked into joining the wrestling team at your school, and you realize you're a lot stronger than you were. Like all the times people maybe in your family put you down, said you were weak, said you were useless, said you weren't capable of anything good, and then you get put through a trial, and then you walk through it, and you realize those are all lies. I think that could be traumatic in itself too, which could also lead to like rebirth in a way.
Right. It's that turning point. That's like the psychosis moment where like everything falls apart and you're trying to grasp things to make sense of reality again. And in that moment is when you are the most prone to programming, and whatever you turn to will replace your previous truth, your previous model of reality. And so that's when it's most dangerous. If you're watching the news during a psychosis or something, like, get ready, you might get radicalized. Honestly, most television, I think, ultimately is made for that moment. Because when that moment hits and you're watching Adult Swim or something, or if you're watching MTV, like, it has it in its design, psychotic related things, psychedelic related things, like it's part of it. They know that at some point someone is going to have that moment of disassociation, of egolessness, and they're going to be able to absorb raw, unfiltered, new information that might shape them in a way. You know, it's how they program us. It's through those highs and lows that we hit, and then it's just in the background of our lives, and then suddenly we're like, I think I'm just going to suddenly be more leftist or whatever. And you don't know why, but it was all these accumulations of moments where things broke down and they reconstructed it for you. But if you're in the forest or something, then you're left only with yourself and the forest. You know, like if you're having a moment in the forest, like, I don't know, you're on mushrooms or something, and then nothing makes any more sense. Reality is beyond anything you could have truly conceived of before. And suddenly you're left with nothing. That's when you can have a real inner view, inner look, you know, no distractions, nothing to change your trajectory in someone else's intended direction. This is you and the forest and the real teachers, you know. Silence. Maybe the birds. MK Ultra yourself. You know, someone else can do it. Why not do it to yourself? In some way that's healthy, reasonable. I don't know. Don't call it MK Ultra though.
Well, as for like getting radicalized while watching the news, I think what could drive easily me to psychosis was if I cling to some of the old ideas I've had before, or identities, I should say, like this is what I am. And if I see a reality that constantly like violates that like on an ontological level, then yeah, I'm gonna like get crazy and radicalized and defensive. But I think what really helps me never fall into that is no matter what, like I identify as just a human being first and foremost. Because like if I didn't do that, it would be so easy to get me to say, no, you're an American. No, you're Korean. You're an Asian American.
You're the reincarnation of a bodhisattva, so it doesn't really count.
Come on, dude. That's not true, dude. This is what I'm saying. Like I'm just a regular guy, and if more people,
that's what they would say though. But the thing is, look, we in this group and many other people, the others, we have some recognition and some, I'd say, protection from certain things. Like if you were to watch the news, you'd probably have things like critical thinking and, like discernment, wisdom, and you are not in the state of consciousness that specific thing will be designed for. You're not the ones that are trying to radicalize anymore, because you're already radicalized in a direction of wisdom and discipline and practice for the sake of practice. These are radical ideas.
I don't think so. I think they're just ancient, and I think we just forgot them.
What I mean by radical is relative to the normal, basically. That's what I mean by radical. Radically different than the norm. And these are all radical opinions that we share here that you wouldn't hear on the news ever, or even on television, But you can, like, it seems that it's the altered state of consciousness that is permitted within our culture, that is sold to us, combined with these media systems, is what generates the radical belief and the, like, imagine how many drunk people are watching the news every day, just near blackout drunk every day, trying to like just tolerate existence.
Trying to enjoy Fox,
Yeah, just watching Fox News, having a couple of beers, and then by the end of the night, they're gonna go to bed with all this stuff about all the programming they've been fed their entire day, while pissed drunk, and like they'll repeat that cycle over and over. And that there is alcoholic psychosis. It's probably one of the most common in our culture. Blackout drunk is basically a moment of psychosis. They don't remember what they're doing. They don't have any conception of reality anymore. All their ethics and behaviors are pretty much falling apart. So that moment when you're watching the news and you're just getting angrier and angrier and closer to blackout drunk, it's got to be a point where that's where they're trying to reach them, because anyone else sober would watch this shit and be like, this is fucking horrible television.
Actually, I'm like, I barely know anyone who watches the news anymore.
It's only old people. And young people are less and less alcoholic for a reason. It's a different drug for a different medium.
But young people watch podcasts. Did you know that China just made a law?
They smoke weed and watch podcasts.
There was like a new rule that podcast. China's not going to be allowing people who don't have college degree. You have to have a college degree in China to podcast about politics or science or anything like that.
That means the government gets to control everything that is said in podcasts, basically.
I assume. I don't know how far it goes, because realistically, we have similar rules. I was scared about you talking about diet, frankly. The way the YouTube works.
I don't give. Sorry.
Being healthy is good for you.
I don't give a fuck about YouTube, but I care about you, so I won't. I'll try to restrict my diet.
It is what it is. But I wonder even how crazy it is if you were. Can you say being healthy is good for you, or is that medical advice?
Yeah, it's not. Honestly, at that point, those details are where they can come in and silence you, and just be like, yeah, well, he said this, it's close enough, therefore we're gonna go and give him $100,000 fine or put him in jail.
You know what, Vincent? I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I've had that thought in the back of my head where it's like someday the right people are just gonna get annoyed by me for whatever fucking reason. Like maybe what I said wasn't radical 6 years ago, but maybe it becomes radical. That's why I'm like, well, fuck you then. I'm just gonna go to the forest. I'm gonna go to the fucking forest, and that's why I die.
That's why I don't torrent, and I never have. Because I'm just like, people who torrent, I'm just like, if they can monitor any of that, they just have to go like, hey, look, we said it right before all the movies. Like FBI warning. Like if you do this, you get jail time and hundred thousands of dollars of fines. At any point, they could just retroactively be like, "Oh, look, we have all your torrenting ever." Now you're like, you've torrented 6,000 movies over the years or something. At some point, I'm like, I just won't. Like, what if my government is really that bitch ass?
That's a fair thing to worry about, I guess. Realistically,
I just try to be careful.
I'm gonna look that up. Has anyone ever been arrested for torrenting files online? And I think that obviously they're gonna say, well, there's been people like who started the Pirate Bay or something, but yeah, the Pirate Bay is the best one. Just regular people who torrented, pirated.
Go straight to jail, boy. Did you illegally download Beverly Hills Cop 1? You're going to jail.
And it was in Spanish.
FBI warning, enforcement. Rare for cases of casual duplication at home. Some small operators were arrested in the 1980s and 90s, but mostly just got warnings. I think generally it hasn't been used like that yet, but that's still something that could happen.
Yeah, it just takes a change of law. They go retroactively. We decide to nab up anyone we want.
Yeah, but this guy David saying even my weed is legit. That's based, but didn't they take away gun rights from Hawaiian citizens for smoking weed? They were trying to do that federally. They were saying if you had medical marijuana, then you shouldn't. There's something maybe wrong with you. You shouldn't be able to have a gun. That was the first step that they took towards that.
Mm-hmm.
So they can use it to take away other rights because it's not a right; it's a privilege.
Yeah,
which it's weird because it should be part of the First Amendment, probably that you're protected.
I wish we grew more weed in Hawaii and I would smoke it. Sounds good. Hawaiian weed, Hawaiian Kush,
true.
Hawaiian Punch.
Hawaii just seems cool generally. All right, so Kurt, just before we go, can you visualize? I'm going to give you 3 options. You can describe to me what you think the world will be like in 2045, what the world will be like in 2075, and in 2100. Which one of those would you rather try to predict or tell me about?
Good
45,
question.
75, or 100?
I think. All right, we'll go. We're eeny, meeny, miny, mowing 2075. All right, so China has retaken itself as the #1 economic superpower in the world. AI has destroyed not as many jobs as we initially thought, because, well, it takes a lot to have I don't know, to build up a robot that can be like a server in a restaurant. It not just beyond that. Beyond that, it's well, it's the same reason. Why don't you why does that you can't mechanize those things? There's something maybe a little bit inherent to the human soul that other human souls want to interact with. So I'm not going to get on the train that the world will be a dystopia in 2075. Well, even more so that maybe part of our dystopia exists today. It's like right now, technically, we live under the constant threat of things like nuclear war, or even perhaps using an EMP on a major city might be worse, at least to most people's minds, than actually, killing them with a nuke. That's how dependent on things like electricity we are. It involves our everyday lives to such a incredible degree. An EMP might be worse than a nuke for in the minds of a lot of politicians, to be honest. So, 2075, we do have flying cars. We do have flying cars in 2075. They are a lot more efficient. Airplanes are still the best mode of fast travel, but but they are highly, highly efficient, much more efficient than they are today. Just because the physics are there, man. If you look at where how long aviation has come in terms of like fuel efficiency, it's really, really just incredible.
Totally.
Of course,
graphene metallized fuel cells and supercapacitors for the quick bursts. It's going to be way better than jet fuel.
Yeah. So the world might look a lot more similar in terms of technology that I think a lot of people are planning on in that'd be 50 years from now. So I think a lot of people's everyday lives might actually not look all that different. It's just in terms the geopolitical space will certainly look a lot different. I think the U.S. will still be a superpower, but it won't be like the number one superpower in any sort of dimension that it is currently. So the fall of Rome took you could ask 10 different professors, like, when was the fall of Rome? What answer are you going to get? I don't know. There was a lot of crazy things that happened over a 300-year period from what I can recall. And so it's like we're going to lose influence, and that doesn't mean we won't have a society in 50 years. It just means we're not going to have the same amount of bargaining power. And with that, so if you go for example, if you go to a lot of third world countries, you'll see things like McDonald's. That goes hand in hand with our level of power that we've had in indoctrinating the rest of the world. If we don't have as much power, we lose less of an influence to westernize parts of the world that you wouldn't think would be westernized, but they are. And so we're going to lose that cultural power. So the world probably will be socialized in the sense of there's going to be more Eastern influence than Western influence potentially. So that's what I think 2075 will look like. But of course, it's going to be similar to now with things like medical advances, like robots will do your surgeries. Like that's kind of cool, I guess.
Okay. What about you, Vince? Do you have a thought on 2075 or 2100 or 2045? Does one of those stick out to you more?
Well, it depends how things go, like can we change timelines? Like it depends on what will happen. So I'm very hopeful. I think that things are going to get pretty wild, but eventually things are going to balance out again. It's like we are getting ready to get off planet, and that shift is going to make a major change in the collective human perception. I don't know if we're actually getting off planet or not, but it appears that we're getting to the point technologically where we're going to be able to have a new frontier. And right now there are no new frontiers to explore physically, so we create digital ones. But the physical ones, like, those are going to be the new hero stories of the future. And there's probably going to be some pretty amazing technology that's coming. It depends how bad things get before then, but I think that there's probably going to be a lot of new things that we can't even imagine right now that we're still struggling with. Like 50 years ago, most people couldn't have imagined the place we're in right now. And I think that it's just going to keep getting weirder and weirder and weirder up until the point where we actually get the fuck out of here, or, reach something beyond our current limit that is a major breakthrough. Like AI is already a major breakthrough, but AI will generate more breakthroughs, and it's gonna get amazing, really. One way or another, it's gonna be amazing.
What are you, Chris? What do you think? 2100, 2075, or 2045? Any of those?
Let's do 2100 or 2075, like around that area. I do agree with Vince on a lot. I do think that we do have to kind of go through a planetary escape phase. But I also think that despite things getting cool and awesome, all of us aren't probably going to be around for it. Like
2075?
Yeah, going in maybe 2075 going into 2100. I think what's going to happen is a huge population decrease. I don't know if that's going to be through like mass nuclear war, nuclear winter. I don't know if it's going to be through some cataclysmic natural disaster, maybe a cataclysmic economic disaster, or maybe just something like purely emergent from genetics. Like people just naturally are inclined to have less kids in a more modernized environment. But yeah, I think like drastic population reduction, whether it's planned by reptilians or whether it's just the natural course of like civilizational development, it has to happen. And then we could get together and create our little fucking utopia or whatever. But I think chances are like there's some directive to wipe out like 90% of the human population.
What year are you born?
Me?
Yeah.
1991.
You're going to be like in your low 80s, like 84 or something.
Yeah, maybe. I just know one of the biggest problems. One of the biggest problems of the discourse is the fact that with all this cool utopian breakthrough type shit, you're going to get radical life extension of the human individual, and that's going to unleash all sorts of problems because we all know, first of all, it's only going to be available to the rich and the powerful, if not already, and that's already the more that
maybe
becomes
at first. I don't know. I mean,
you
don't think it'll ever be available? You think it's that difficult to?
It depends. It'll only be available for people who travel through space. I think.
You think Chinese people cloning iPhones won't be able to clone? You know, people that are making fake or not even fake.
We'll get underground technology for it.
Yeah, generic aspirin. Same people who bring you generic aspirin and discount Band-Aids are going to bring you discount immortality. It seems like.
Yeah, but it's going to come with concessions, but
it's going to make you change gender,
or it just make you like you have to sign a thing saying it's illegal for you to have kids if you do this type of thing, or without like very specific hoops you have to jump through, or maybe it's going to be some crazy shit. I don't know. Either way, that's going to lead to instability because while we're stuck in our little planet, you can't just have like people living to be like 800 years old, like multiplying constantly.
You can't if you have a high enough suicide rate.
Yeah, what is this? The Old Testament? Come on. Guys.
I'm just saying, like radical life extension. What do you think that means? It means people live to be like fucking 500.
Yeah, but if those people get better and better at things and have more and more money in the hands of fewer and fewer, then it just seems like it's likely that there would be a higher depression rate with that kind of a world.
If Enoch can do it, so can you. Okay.
All I know is Earth is not forever. So that's what leads me to kind of logically lean this way, because regardless of whether we leave the planet or not, Earth is finite. This planet isn't, as we know, it can't like stick. It's like it's a mathematical certainty that something's just going to come and wipe it out, eventually.
Sure. But the thing is, one factor in all this that we're missing is alien contact. By 2100, I think it's pretty probable that if there is intelligent life out there, it would be scanning the universe for other intelligent life, and eventually it would encounter us if it hasn't already. I'm pretty sure it has. I think that a very intelligent life form in space would probably monitor all of space as we are trying to do already. So it would definitely be noticing planets that pop up with nuclear power and spacefaring capacity. And it's a factor. We talk about immortality. Well, it depends where we're going. Like if we're getting off planet and we're going to get alien assistance to do this, then who knows? Like who knows what the human lifespan will be? Maybe not immortality, but longevity. Sure. 300 years.
One that the new Earth is eternal, right? So there's like an apocalypse period. But then there's a new Earth that's eternal and inhabited by God's people, which is interesting because you think of heaven usually completely in the sky, but it's not necessarily that way in the Bible. Sticky Marks, good to see you again. Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. We just read that earlier. Guy Fawkes was just a patsy. Love from Yorkshire. Yeah, well, you would know. I trust your judgment on Guy Fawkes. Okay, well, I don't know. I'm glad that we did this. Does anybody have any last words?
If the words life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness don't include the right to experiment with your own consciousness, then the Declaration of Independence isn't worth the hemp it was written on. Terence McKenna.
That's right. Actually, don't I have that somewhere? Hold on. Yeah, just to reiterate that point. Cool. I like it. Kurt, any thoughts?
What do you think, Muffins? Any thoughts?
Have you seen the movie Roar?
I have not.
Do you know what that is?
The Lions?
Yeah, the Lions movie. You know what's up. You know what's up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Dude, there's a movie I feel like everyone should see. It's called Roar, the most dangerous film ever made. And the lady from The Birds, Hitchcock's The Birds movie, bought like 70 lions and moved them into a house and then filmed a movie. It took them like 11 years to make it. And the taglines should be no animals were harmed in the making of this film, but nearly 100 people were seriously injured and some of them nearly died. Like, the camera guy from Twister and Speed, the guy who made Twister, right? He was the director actually, but he was the camera guy in this movie, and he had his head like pulled off. The back of his head was pulled off by lions. That was his first big break in Hollywood. So yeah, everyone,
Crazy.
If you want to see big cats just like attack everybody,
fuck people up. Yeah,
it's insane, really, that they made this. The face of of her daughter was disfigured by a lion.
Right.
Anyway,
they've done crazy things.
You love cats, I know.
That was a ritual.
Oh yeah, there's a meme, internet meme of a guy on a buffalo. There was a horrible movie made about. I think I can't remember the name, but it was about one of the frontiersmen of the West. Anyway, they took a guy, they actually stuck him, they mounted him on a buffalo, and they did it for a movie. And David so Crockett. During the movie, they kept on filming while the main character was under an actual attack from a mountain lion. And so, he ended up like he punched the mountain lion in the face, and this is all verifiable, by the way. And he got away, but they were like, "Oh, that's a really good shot," and then they just kept it in the film. So that's a little tidbit of interesting movie history.
That's pretty good. Oh, one last thing, because you talked about robots. I'm sorry, but what do you think about the new Elon Musk robot slaves that people are going to buy for like 20 grand or whatever it is, right? Because like a slave was about 50 grand in today's money, I think. So 20 grand is comparable but cheaper. And yeah, you've seen these already, I assume. Have you seen these?
Yeah, but they're not as effective as the old slaves. So
true, but they might become more effective in time, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I want them in that human form. I think I'd rather have like a pack of like robot wolves tailing.
I like how they have this knit crap they wear because it makes them look like a fencer. They're like wearing a fencing helmet. And that's, it seems
it also makes it also to the touch, it makes them less cold. So there's a more humanness to it. That's why they did it as well.
They're gonna do all sorts of weird things to them. Like some sickos out there, they're gonna be like, "Hey, this feels just like."
We are in for a period of serious AI robot abuse. It's coming.
Exactly. What do you, Kurt? Do you have any thoughts on the robot slaves?
But how are you going to get an unjustified sense of superiority over other souls with a robot? That's just what I'm saying.
Because they're smarter than you, or as smart at least. Or
I got Musk again.
Musk will probably alter it to give it feelings, so you can abuse it and it can actually be hurt.
That's it. He's gonna trap his ex-girlfriends in them.
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, Chris. Last thoughts are with you, bro.
Oh, well, I just want to say thanks to everyone watching. Thanks to everyone who had this joining in on this talk. And you guys are awesome. Seriously, one of the best highlights of my week. And God willing, I'll see you in the next one.
Love you guys. Take care.
Peace.
This must be me.